Hi, my name is Cleon Theophille, and this is Live a Life You Love. And if you did not know, I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and my main purpose with this podcast is to help you go from simply surviving to thriving by teaching you how to manage your emotions and how to use that information to generate momentum in your life. Today we have a good one for you guys. So for the month of February, I usually have a series all centered around love. And I want to have this episode with no other than the love of my life. We're going to have a guest with me today, and it is no other than Mr. Theophille, my husband, Cleon. So welcome. Tell the people hi.
Hi everyone.
Right, so today we want to have a conversation. Now the title of the series is called Life Loud, and so the whole purpose of this talk is we want to help people understand that love of course crosses many barriers, but today we specifically want to talk about how do you navigate this single world, this dating world. What are some things you should be looking out for? What are some of the things we think that you need to have for yourself? And so the conversation is all about living and loving your life as a single person, especially if you want to go into that dating arena. So if you didn't know, Cleon and I get asked a lot to do a lot of sessions with young people on how to date properly. And it makes sense because we've been together for a while. So you can tell them a little, not the whole story, but a little bit of our story and how we met and how long we've been together.
So, Kelly and I have been together for about 11 years.
Yes.
Long story short, we met in Suriname, didn't actually realize we met. Then fast forward, 3 months later, we met in a camp in Trinidad. And then it was love at first sight.
For you.
Wow. This is what I have to live with. But you know, it's all good.
It's like he fell in love with me in one weekend. I have to admit, because back then my nature was a bit oblivious. I didn't realize. I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, you would make such a great friend. But I did not friends with him. But yes, it really did take one weekend for us to talk.
Yep.
And fast forward, 6 years married, 11 years together. This is where we are at. So of course, you know, we've been off the market for a long time, but we understand what it means to be single. And so we want to start the conversation in terms of some of the things that we see happening with young people and their singleness.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want us to first talk about, Clee, is what are some of the things that you think young people need to remember about their season of singleness?
So I think one of the first things is to understand that your relationship status does not define you. Because I think too much times people are like, oh, so you have a boyfriend or you have a girlfriend now, you know, or you're married. That does not define you. So I think that's the first thing I want to tell people.
Yeah.
Your status isn't everything.
You see, the tricky thing as well in the Caribbean context, and I know everybody wouldn't be a Caribbean context, when you hit like 21, everybody's kind of like, where your man? Or where your girlfriend, where your boyfriend, you know? So we have this added pressure that when we reach a certain age in Trinidad and Tobago, and even in the Caribbean at large, we have this heavy expectation that we should be with somebody, and then as the time rolls by the time you hit 25, well, you're an old lady. And your clock ticking, you know? So you are not defined by your singleness. So not being defined by your singleness, fine. We understand that there is a natural pressure of the society for us to have to be this married and start training our children. But for those of the audience who are in this season of singleness, whether by choice or not, what do you think are some crucial things that we need to remember about this season of singleness? Like, when you were single, what was your focus? Like, what were you paying attention to at the time?
So I think for me, when you're single, it's all about personal development. And it may sound kind of corny.
Right.
And it may sound
your wife is an emotional intelligence coach?
Yeah. So basically, personal development is that you have the ability to do things for yourself.
Right.
So like when you're single, you can go and study and you don't need to worry about that extra responsibility of having somebody to take care of and look after. You could go travel the world if you want to.
So are you saying that being married means that...
No. We travel the world together now.
That's right.
You know, if we study, I'll help you study.
Right.
But like when you're single, it comes with a sense of freedom.
Correct.
Not that marriage is bondage, but there's this freedom that comes when you're single that you can do certain things, which I think sometimes people don't understand.
Or maximize on.
Correct.
Yeah. Because of course we've been married for a long time and we love being married, but as Cleon said, when you are single, you could pick up yourself and move. And I think sometimes you take for granted that opportunity to invest in yourself in a way that could sometimes be selfish. And I don't use selfish in the way that we are accustomed meaning selfish, but you're allowed to be selfish with what you decide to choose to do and how you decide to develop yourself.
Yep.
So I agree with you, because when you are married, and the way in which we believe in marriage, there's this shared conversation that has to be going on. We have to see where our lives are before you make a step, before you make a decision. Basis when you're by yourself, you ain't studying about anybody.
Correct.
You do that versus, well, we married, so we need to consider, is this the season? We have children, if this the season. So I think, so what you are saying is that one of the things in your singleness that you have to consider is, are you heading in the direction you'd want to head in and maximizing that freedom and that ability to do anything?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's good, right? You said that, you wrapped that up really nicely.
Yeah. So your own is that freedom, like maximizing that freedom.
Yeah.
I think for me, when we weren't together and I was in that headspace of development, one of the things that I think a lot of single people need to pay a lot of attention, especially if you are the type of single that wants to be in a relationship, is take as much time as possible on developing your identity. I think I have too many clients sometimes who have who came out of a relationship.
You can add that to the dictionary.
Yeah. They've exited, that's it, who've exited a relationship. And then I realized that the core of the issue was that because they were broken, because that their identity wasn't solidified, and they were just kind of holding on to what the person was saying about them, they're now in this place where their self-esteem is completely broken and they have so much baggage. So I think when I was single, obviously because prior to you I would have whatever the past was, I was now in this space of, you know what, a lot of who I am not sure of. And so I spent a lot of time figuring out who Kellyn was. Was I somebody who was truly introverted? What did I actually like? And so I really want to encourage persons who are single, if you want to love yourself truly, invest the time in trying to figure out who you really are. Because the truth of it is, when you're joined to somebody, there's this natural inclination to lean into this person's identity. Whether you want to admit it or not, we feed off of each other.
Yeah,
so now if you're around Cleon and I remember somebody asked us if we're brothers and sisters at the time, because we move so much alike. And that's because the more time you spend with somebody, you feed off of their energy. But because of the fact that our identity was solidified before, we know the ways that we are still individuals and are able to go off of that strength. But that comes with doing the groundwork in singleness. You have to be willing to put in that work. I remember when we were now meeting each other, which we're going to slide into that side of it, I remember thinking to myself, I was just like, what am I going to bring to this table? Now, most times, we always think what that person bringing to our table. And I'm like, nah, what am I going to offer this young boy? But a lot of that was I was only able to answer it because of the fact that there was a lot of work that I was doing on myself. Like, I was able to decide what my toxic traits were. You know, can you identify what your toxic traits are? Can you identify the trauma that you would have had in a relationship that could possibly impact the way you respond in a relationship? So I know yours is maximize your freedom. Mine is work on your identity. Yeah? You want to add anything else into that?
No, I think you're summing it up really nicely, because at the end of the day, you have to understand that, you know, you have to take the time when you're single to do all this hard work. Like, and it's hard work because working on yourself is not easy. Sometimes when you look in the mirror and you see something that you don't like, you don't want to necessarily fix it. But when you're single, is the time to fix it.
Correct.
So, hey, work on it while you're single.
Yeah, so work on it while you're single. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of being able to be honest with yourself. And now it's easy when you're single to not realize what some of the things you have going on with you, because there's most times when you come into conjunction with somebody is when you realize, oh my god, I have bad behaviors. But this is why we have a podcast, now that you know that you have some self-development work to do, where you need to figure out and really sit with that and figure out and solidify who you are. The last thing I want to say before we move on to the next part about red flags, because you know these red flags be waving like a banner in the air, like a panorama woman, but that's another story another time. So we talked about the freedom, we talked about the identity aspect of it. Make sure even in the midst of that you have a solid direction for where you want your life to go. I say that because too many times I see a lot of people join and they throw away what their hopes and their dreams are. You have to, in your singleness, be running in that direction already. So a lot of times, and young women, I'm talking to us because of course I could relate to the woman. Don't wait for no man to decide you're not going to start to live. That is not what I want for you. So your singleness should be the season where you know what your purpose is and that direction you want to head in. It does not take being joined to somebody to understand that you have this life, you have people you are responsible for, and so you need to start heading in that direction. So when I meet young people say, "I'm ready for a husband." Okay, so what's the plan for your life? I'm waiting for a husband. I didn't ask you that. Ask you what your plan for your life is. And so I want you to strongly consider in this season of singleness, make sure that there is some direction attached to your life. What are you pursuing so that when a husband or a wife comes in, or even if you decide to stay single, they meet you on your journey.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be taking you off course. So when we met, I love that I never had to stop and pivot. It was like, oh, hey, high five, let's keep heading in that direction. So that's something that I feel very strongly about that I want us to remember. Yeah?
Well said.
So just the teacher and me has to make sure that we sum up that part of what to do with your singleness. Enjoy your freedom. Go out on a girls' night. Line with the fellas. Nobody to tell you, hey, when you're coming home, bring some food for me. Right? So maximize on that freedom. 2, work on your identity. I know it makes for good jobs for me. But I really want, especially our age bracket, to really take that advantage that you are in a season where you could do the hard work now. And then 3, make sure you have direction. Direction is important. You have to be able to sit with yourself and understand what your purpose is beyond anybody you're attached to. So those are my 3. Yeah. Now we want to talk about the red flags, the waving high in the sky kind of thing. So you reach at the point where you work on it, your freedom thing, and then somebody slide into your DMs, bam shot. We ready to have a conversation. Oh, you meet them on a camp. You meet them on a camp. We meet on a camp, right? So you are at this stage where you are ready to be back out there. You're ready to date. And of course, now in this context, you're like, where do I start? How do I even start? What should I be looking for? So before we even get to the red flags, I want to talk about the green flags. I really do want to talk about the green flags. So for you, what were some green flags that you were looking for that you think young men should have when they are looking for a woman?
So I think you have to be able to look for somebody who have ambition.
Okay.
Fellas, if it is the woman that you're going after don't have ambition, yeah, it ain't with it. Because I mean, ambition is what will carry you through whatever stage in life you're at.
Okay.
Because you know you're willing to work towards something.
Okay.
And I mean it ties to other things like perseverance and all these other good ways that we know. But have ambition.
Okay, so you like a woman with ambition.
Yeah.
Okay. But what do you think ambition would add to your life from a woman?
So I mean ambition means that you everything you're doing with excellence.
Okay.
So if I know a girl, and then that's why I went
I mean, you're married.
You know, you had that. I saw in those 3 days in the camp, I saw excellence. Just 3 days, guys, and I was able to see the excellence.
Yeah.
So I knew that if I got with you, you will add that to my life.
Gotcha. I think what we have to understand about ambition is not the same as having it all together. That's not what we're saying.
That's a good one.
But even if somebody isn't at the place that they were aiming for, you see the strides that they're making towards it. That's really what ambition is. So it can be, so basically saying you don't want no lazy girl. You think men shouldn't be pursuing somebody who might be lazy.
Yep.
Right, and that goes back to that development you have to do beforehand,
Yep.
which is why come with something, come with a little direction.
Right.
You know, so one of your green flags is ambition.
Yep.
I think for me, one of my green flags with you was somebody who was kind. And it sounds very cheesy and it sounds corny, but people could be so mean.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I needed kindness because of the fact that I am somebody who I think is gentle in spirit.
Yeah.
And so I needed I don't rough me up.
Yeah.
Don't shout at me. I needed somebody who could cater to that kindness. So somebody who was kind of mean wasn't something that I could have handled. So kindness to me is a green flag. What are some other green flags that you think? Oh, before, sorry.
No, I was just going to build on saying to like, and the thing is that person who's kind needs to be kind not just to only the potential boyfriend, girlfriend that they get in with, but are they kind to their families?
Yeah, boy.
Are they kind to their co-workers? Are they kind to
pets?
The average person.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is that kindness look? How do we exhibit that kindness?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so kindness is one for me. What's another green flag for you?
There's so much.
Just think about who I am.
You know, I think a green flag is the person must be pleasant to the eyes. Like,
No, let me be
you must
honest.
like how the person look. Like, I mean, because you're gonna spend the rest of your
That's
life
such
with
a
that
guy
person.
answer.
But it's
But in
true.
it being a
It
guy,
makes sense.
it's a guy answer, but it's also a
Yeah.
girl
So it
answer.
doesn't mean like, sometimes people always look for the 10 out of 10. Nobody's 10 out of 10, let's be honest. But you must be, but you must be though a high, like a
I
high
drink it,
number.
yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah, yeah.
mean? So that's why I say looks does matter, but not in a superficial way.
Of course. Here's the thing, about being realistic. As especially our background as Christians, it's easy for us to be like, no, look deeper at the person's personality and their spirit and all that. And I agree. But let's be honest, at the end, if you're not attracted to somebody, like I'm not even going to be that coach that's going to be like, no, look past. No, no. If you cannot watch the man in his face, then babes, leave the man alone. Because somebody else could.
Yeah.
That's my
Because
point.
they say every chalk has its cheese, right?
Something so. Or moldy
But
bread have a cheese.
it
It's
has some
something like
cheese, it has
that.
some bread, it has something going on, some
Yeah.
food related
Whatever,
thing.
somebody related to
But
something.
the point
Yeah.
is that you must still have some form of attraction to the
I
person.
agree.
So that's a green flag.
Yeah,
And
and
it
the
will look differently to
attraction,
everybody,
yeah,
though,
and
of
the
course.
attraction is not just look. The
No.
attraction is, am I attracted to, like, you're vibing off of you? So,
Correct, because I could
like,
be attracted to your wittiness.
yeah,
I mean, I think I'm pretty witty,
you are very
you
witty.
know,
You are
but
very witty. So make sure you're attracted to, of course, the way, like, you appeal to me, but as well as be attracted to that person's heart. So for me, one of my green flags was good conversation. Like, oh, I could talk to you all the time. We could talk about anything. So for me, that's being attracted to your soul. I'm being attracted to just the way you converse and the type of things that you say. I was like, very nice. So make
slap a
sure that
slap.
there is that level of attraction. So of course, green flags are going to look different. But here's what I want you all to think about from an emotional intelligence standpoint. Green flags must match your core values and who you are. So if you're hearing us talking and it's like, yeah, but I don't know what my green flags are, this is how you identify your green flags. Green flags for you are usually attached to the things that you value. So for me, I am somebody who one of my core values is integrity. I'm attracted to people who are people of integrity. I am kind, so I am naturally attracted to somebody who's kind. So if you can't figure out what your green flag is by just looking at somebody, this is why you have to know your identity. You look at yourself and be like, what are my core values? What are the things that I treasure? And those things should guide your green flags. Now the flip to that now is the red flag. The panorama flag for you.
I don't feel like we have enough time to go through red
No, we're not
flags,
gonna
though.
go through all the
How
red
much time we
flags.
have? Because we could be here a whole day.
So with red flags, now people, none of us are colorblind, and even if that's the case, you could tell the shade a little darker. You are seeing things, and too many people are seeing things that they know do not fit them. Now, here's the thing with green flags. Green flags doesn't always have to be toxic. Red
Red
flags.
flags,
Red
yeah,
flags
yeah,
don't always have to mean this person is highly toxic.
yeah.
Red flags could mean this person's a great person, but they do not fit you.
True.
Right?
That's a good
So,
point.
for example, what would be a red flag that's not necessarily toxic, but you couldn't work with in a woman?
I guess, I mean, and it's funny, right? Because most times the red flags is the opposite of green when you really think of
Depends,
it. But I mean,
sometimes.
the one that comes to mind for me is laziness,
Right.
which I guess I'll say is the opposite of
Right. So
ambition.
that's when that's a
But
general
the
red
point
flag.
is, yeah, but still lazy. If you're lazy, we're not even having a conversation.
Right.
Like, and I'm sure we could be friends because I don't think I
Okay.
could have lazy friends.
That's a whole other
I know,
conversation for
I
another time.
know.
So one of your red flags is definitely that laziness aspect
Yeah.
of it. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm trying to think of a red flag for me that isn't necessarily toxic, but I couldn't do. I think it's maybe what boy. I can't handle somebody who might be overly loud.
Mm.
So for me, because my personality, contrary to personal belief, I'm more of an introvert. So I can't handle being on all the time.
Yeah.
Now, I love being, like, I have loud friends. With my friends,
Correct.
I get
Correct.
loud. But in terms of somebody I'm with, and being loud is not a toxic trait.
No, no, no.
It's just because, remember, I have a handle on who I am.
Yeah.
I know that I can't do that.
It's like, yeah, because they can't have moments of extrovertness all the time.
Yeah,
Like, you
because
have to
yeah,
have
and the reason I say it's
those
a red
cycles.
flag is because you remember the whole point of this conversation is you want to become connected to somebody. So if I can't handle your loudness, even though you're a great person, then it therefore means at some point we're gonna clash.
Yeah, because I mean, if you want somebody who's home to you, like home with you, and you just want those quiet times at times, and your person
Yeah,
is just always on and loud, and
yeah,
it's not gonna be nice.
yeah. So let's talk about general red flags as we wrap up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Red flags are those things that are your triggers But they, of course, they are natural things that are red flags. But understanding things that trigger you, and you have to be able to know that within yourself. Now, there are some natural non-negotiables that I think everybody needs to have. So for me, I would hope that you don't go around somebody who's a narcissist. So you constantly think about yourself. So narcissist is basically somebody who's self-absorbed. Everything is about them. It comes back to them. That person is somebody who's a recipe for disaster in a relationship, because one of the most important and hardest lessons you will learn in a boyfriend and girlfriend scenario, married, is it is selfless. So you can't be with somebody who's self-absorbed and it comes like, I pouring out my heart to you, and then your response is, well, I remember when, and it comes back to you. So for me, be very careful of somebody who's a narcissist, somebody who everything centers around them. It has to be about them and how you deal with them. So what's a red flag that you think these people need to be mindful of?
Well, I feel like that one you summed up nicely. A lot of other things, because from that selfishness will stem other toxic
you can't talk to people properly.
Correct, because if you're always rude, that probably stems from some selfish desire in you, where you have some issues that you need to, and they probably need to come to an emotional intelligence coach like you. Yeah, is that a plug? Am I plug?
Yeah, always plugging. Plug. Yeah.
But no, I think being self-absorbed and selfish and all these things it will show up in different areas of your life. So I think you summed it up really nicely.
The recognizing your red flags is you flip to the green. Pay attention to those things that usually trigger you, the things that you know you can't really stand. If you know that you're somebody who's naturally not aggressive, then understand that a red flag is somebody who's aggressive for you. If you're somebody who you know because of your past experience that you have to have somebody who has to be very outspoken, they need to be that in your life, because you've had the opposite where you notice not to be spoken to and you notice to be isolated, and this is what you need. If the person is that, then you know that that's one of your red flags. You understand what I'm saying? So understand what your red flags. Pay attention to those things that trigger you. The core of this, guys, is a lot of self-examination. You really need to look at yourself and ask yourself, what would I want and what would I not be able to? Create your list of non-negotiables. What was your non-negotiables? And of course, I know some people saying a non-negotiable is cheating, and those are understood, but it's more than just those things. Is the core of this person nice? Is this person a giving person? Is this somebody who's nurturing? Like, what are those things that if you're seeing it, this is where you have to come to the point of deciding, I am not going to compromise on who I am. This is what I stand for. Always remember, when you're in a boyfriend or girlfriend relationship, you're married, you know. At any given time, you understand what I'm telling you? You can get out of it. Marriage is way different. You understand?
It's like, because marriage is a commitment.
Yeah, so dating and being together is your opportunity. Yeah, it's the opportunity to be like.
No, but we're not telling you all if we all live together, separated.
That's not what we're
saying. But if you need to, you can in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship compared to a marriage. So yeah.
So, Lovey, for this entire talk, we've talked about two very important things. One, understanding that singleness is not a curse. It is a beautiful opportunity. Like every season of your life, it is going to be beautiful. It really is what you make of it. And I want us to understand that with your singleness, find out what that purpose is. Find out where your destination is. Use your time for that too. Solidify your identity. Who are you? Deal with your traumas. Deal with those different attitudes. You know your mouth hot. Deal with it while you're single. Deal with it, you understand? And then thirdly, be free. You can't be sitting and, waiting. Go outside.
There's a big will to explore.
Go outside. Have a little fun. Do something with your life. So that's the singleness aspect. And then in terms of when you're ready to get into that dating aspect of it, green flags. Your green flags are always going to be those things in somebody where we share similar core values. We are kindred spirit. And doesn't mean that it will be different in personality, but the core values are the same. And then with your red flags, one of the quickest way to notice what are some of the red flags with somebody is you are triggered by it even within yourself. So you are not aggressive, so that means you're not going to work well with somebody who's aggressive. So guys, I hope that this was a helpful podcast. Of course, feel free to subscribe, like, comment. We want to hear what are your thoughts. What are some green flags for you, and what are some of your red flags? Let us know, and we would love to chat with you guys. Thank you for coming on with me, my love. And so we will catch up on the next episode, and this is Live a Life You Love.